Good morning all, hope you're doing well. We had that 24-hour difference, it slowed down a little bit. The herd are now less long, which it kind of makes sense because look at price action, it's really scary this week. So they were really long and now they're reducing their longs, which is exactly what I said would happen yesterday. And we are not out of the woods yet because we're still very much risk off because the herd are still net long. For every one person selling, there's 6 people buying. So these bulls, these dumb bulls, are going to have to get probably have to get liquidated. So we're not out of the woods yet, but we're slowing down on the 24-hour difference, and that's key. Okay, if they continue to add long, we'll continue to fall, but they're reducing their long. So we might start stabilizing. We might start making a bottom on risk. Did lots of analysis in Discord, so be sure to check that out on the S&P. And there's some very important levels to be checking, so you can just put a line on your chart. They're like the key levels. Okay, let's have a look at the weighting. So Russell 2000 is going to be worth a watch because that was positive, while the other indices, they really puke. So these are probably retail traders are using these, but they're not really trading the Russell 2000. So it might be skewing the price action on that. Potentially. I know there's like obviously fundamental forces at play, but why is the Russell 2000 positive and these two are negative? It might be skewed by retail herd sentiment. I know the retail guys are only a tiny proportion of the entire volume, but there has to be someone to take that other side of that transaction, right? And that's going to trigger algos, which then might trigger more algos. So it's possibly retail herd sentiment skewing these, maybe. VIX did rise, but it stopped its parabolic move. It was really going up like crazy amounts, but we want to keep an eye on 20. The robot is now going to open signals if we're below 19. Now, why 19? With 20, we're going to see a lot of wobble. Okay, so we wait for 20 to break, then it will probably go above 20. Then below and up, down, up, down, up, down, and it'll just whipsaw. We don't really want the robot to whipsaw on its positioning, so we're going to wait for 19 to break, and then we'll know. Then we'll go to 18, 17, 16, and then we should be quite risk on. But we're going to wait for 19 on the robot, just so you guys know. That's it from the risk calc. Just be aware that they're slowing down on their sentiment, which you can't really blame them. And also, secondly, would you want to hold long over the weekend? Probably not. QDB scores. Let's have a look. Now, we got that CAD weakness slightly. That was based on the COT data. It was a good trade. The dollar CAD did quite well this week. Oh, actually, CAD yen is down there, which is the first time that's happened. So we've got a poor score. Oh, right, we've above 50%. Okay, right, that is really interesting. So be careful of CAD yen because we're actually a sell at the big picture. We're above 50%, okay, and they're going long by 1%. So of the yen crosses, that could be worth looking at. Kiwi yen is very much a sell because we're well above 50% there. So CAD yen and Kiwi yen might be good yen trade to take. Obviously be careful the dollar yen, they're very short and it's 24% long, so there's a load of bears in that market. AN's very skewed, so be careful there. Let's look at your indices and gold. Dragging this across. Now gold did sold. Mr. Bosch is doing incredibly well on gold right now. He's nailed it basically. He's nailing the moves. So pay attention to what he's posting in Discord. He's a very good trader and is funded as well. He's using a prop firm. So keep an eye on what Mr. Bosch is putting in Discord, and he's basically nailing the moves up to the SLCs. And I guess you can probably figure out where the SLC is going to be, right? It's got to have to be up here. Why? Because they're thinking that this is going to be a resistance, but they don't know that liquidity is sitting here, and that's probably going to be a magnet. So what's that high? 1996. So it's likely, isn't it? You can see, and you can probably anticipate stops being here, here, and here. right? But they've sold it, so we should be coming up. So that's the buy. It's not a risky buy, it's a buy because we're below 50%. Okay. S&P, and are we going to get that crossover? This is like the $1 trillion question. If we get the crossover, then this would be a bottom, and then if we get the crossover and they continue to hold onto that bias, then it will definitely be the bottom. But they'll need to continue to hold, but we don't know for sure if they will. It's a little bit erratic, but not as erratic as US 30, which is I wouldn't trade this based on the sentiment at all. It's it looks quite serrated. Oh, there we go. That was slow. There's some motorbikes in the background. Hopefully you can't hear them. So we're very serrated and choppy on US 30, but we could argue with making a sell slightly. Yeah, it's too close really to call. The SSI needs to come down a bit more. But you're just about making a risky buy. Just you've got to be careful there. And DAX. Yes, it's not as erratic as US 30, it's more smooth. So we'll have to wait here. If we get the crossover, then yeah, this is going to be the bottom. You could look for a long, potentially, if we get the crossover. But we haven't got it yet. Okay, and that's gold done. DAX, US 30, S&P. Let's look at the robot. And we're actually positive, which is quite amazing. And see what I think Euro Aussie is just basically testing levels. We can see how we're just going sideways. We're just ranging. Basically, we're trapped, aren't we, between that high and that low, and probably just going to come down to take stops, come up to take stops, and down to take stops. So if you think about it, there's going to be a resistance up here. Shape up here, isn't it? You know, something like that. You know, you can see there's some selling going on there, some quite heavy selling that started that momentum, and it came up to test that level again. Likewise, it's probably going to come down to test this, just to really get a feeler of where, you know, where the price is going to go. This is what the big fish do. They send price to levels, and they can either buy or sell there. But I think what's going to be a case is that they're just probing the market just to get a feeling about direction. So probably down here, possibly back up there again, and you know, this is what we're going to do. We're actually creating a W, so we might need that to come down to, you know, make that W, maybe. Yeah, you could maybe argue M, but you can talk about harmonics for ages. But supply, you know, and demand, quite clear. You know, we hit that, came down to that. So what we're going to do on the robot, we're going to have a trade and stop in. So we'd had a buy, if you remember, then that stop got us out, but had we kept the 100 pip stop loss, we would have been fine. And then of course, because we bought it 1665, yeah, that was a great trade. Yeah, that potential 160 pips profit there. All right, so we needed a wide stop. So then the trading stop would have kicked in, and then we might have even triggered another one potentially, and then, you know, the trading stop would have kicked in. So lesson learned there is that we're not going to adjust the stop loss or TP midweek. Right, we're going to keep it static, and we're not going to make any changes during the week. But the one change that we're going to do this week is put in the trading stop. This weekend we'll put in a trading stop. So in terms of the weekend, we'll have the crop data report out, and I'll try and get a video out on Saturday if I can think of anything, or if anyone's got any ideas, or you know, they want me to explain something, I won't mind at all. But I think what we're seeing right now, we're seeing the big fish, the probe in the market, and getting a feeling about direction, and they're coming down to these levels where they can either buy, or they're waiting for a break, for a retest potentially, and then to sell. So trade safely, and I'll speak to you guys soon.